This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon all. I'd like to call to order the Planning Committee Ordinance Working Session meeting on June 23rd, 2026 at 12 p.m. And you've got our agenda before you, the Protected Waterfront Ordinance, accessory building structures, building heights and signs. So we're going to tackle once again the Protected Waterfront Ordinance based on the last meeting and then the previous meeting, because this will be our third meeting. Brent, Kim and I got together and we took a stab at the draft ordinance with the idea of trying to drive in everything we've talked about. And there's a lot of decision points in here as you go through, but we tried not to miss anything. So I was thinking of a plan of attack and getting this thing done. And my goal would be for this meeting, which is the end of June, and then our early July meeting, we get this thing drafted up clean so that at our plan committee working session in 1 month, that'd be our July plan committee, we send it to the full plan committee and look for an approval. And then get up to the board. And that way, if the board has questions, comments, there'll be plenty of time for them to ask us to look at stuff and still meet our scheduled deadline, which is the end of the year. So, and what I thought we could do today is, first of all, I would ask everybody, based on the comments that you made as we go through this, if we missed anything when we get to the section, sing out. So I want to make sure we have as complete as possible. And then what I thought we'd do is just once again walk through it and make comments and so forth and just start to clean this thing up. So if that makes sense, I will start with the intent. We had comments on that last time and Rick made a number of changes to it.
Well, just one really, but just the last sentence.
The last sentence. Yeah. Okay. So maybe rather than read it, we could all read it to ourselves and get any comments we might have on it.
Actually, this isn't my work. I didn't do this one. This is
Well, no, you and I
on
talked.
intent. Yeah, I did the last sentence, but the first couple sentences here are not what I did. I would have to dig through. That's, yeah, I know that's different language than I had.
That we had last month
Yes.
or last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There was one section that was added from the meeting. That particularly when Bees of Eagle Harbor was added, are especially limited between homes and structures. And then the rest of it was, the end of it was bricks that you provided to me. But there was one small section that was added from the last meeting.
That is the section that's in red.
We're not, well,
It's just intent, just the 17 sub 1,
Right.
1720 sub 1.
Oh, wait a second.
Maybe we shouldn't.
Oh, okay, maybe I should. Let me get it.
Just
It
make
looks
sure
to
we're
me
getting the
like
right-
I'm reading,
Yeah.
So is this the one that with the date 26/6/17 in the upper right-hand corner?
correct.
Yes, we're all on that same page.
All right, let me go through it. So we all got that, right?
Now, is that the right one?
That's the latest one, 26/6/17. Is
Yeah.
that the one that you about to, Rick?
That's one I have here, but the only sentence that I recognize is the last one that I did.
Well, I'm looking at the previous one we have.
Somehow, yeah, both old and new.
Yeah. So we had recognizing that the open shoreline is one of Ephraim's most distinctive features. The intent of this ordinance is to provide for as much open viewing space, particularly when views of Eagle Harbor are especially limited between homes and structures from the street along the shoreline as possible. That's an important, is that your work?
It's not.
Okay.
No.
That was an addition from the last meeting minutes.
That was an addition? Oh, okay. So we don't have a copy in front of us that showed changes, huh? We just,
I thought we were, I apologize.
Oh, no, I'm just- okay,
So all we added was particularly when views of Eagle Harbor are especially limited between home structures from the street, and then continued with what was there.
right.
And then you had provided we struck the last sentence and we added the section that you gave me from Rick.
Mine, as I recall, and I didn't bring my previous attempt at this, but it spoke to, the shoreline is, one of Ephraim's most distinctive features. I had something like that,
Mhm.
but then I also had in there that, the goal of this is to preserve, I think the views, but then also the preserve, Ephraim's built environment while also giving property owners, the chance to modify or rebuild their structures. I had something in there
Yes.
like that.
I'm looking at the last one, which is dated 6/15, where the first sentence, as you said, we interjected, we being the three of us, that sentence that says, particularly when views of Eagle Harbor are especially limited between the homes and structures, because we talked about that to define the views. But we did, I see now, we left as important contributing component of the Ephraim district, owners or residents of protected waterfront district are encouraged to use and maintain their existing structures.
I think I misunderstood when you came into the office that we were just adding the one sentence you gave me from Rick.
Okay.
So that's just my misunderstanding. I admitted the rest of it. It was just.
Well, wait a minute, that second sentence I just read is still in here, Rick. As an important contributing component of the Ephraim Historic District, owners of residents of protected waterfront district are encouraged to use and maintain their existing residences.
I had a sentence like that. It isn't, I had something like that. It's the first sentence that I know is completely.
So it's in the minutes, right here we have the current intent and draft language from Hoyerman was in the minutes.
There it is.
I am looking at the original or the current version of the intent, 1720, Rec 1, and it's pretty similar to this proposed language, but I have to say, in my opinion, that the current existing is a little clearer.
Okay.
And I don't know why we're wanting to change it. If I were gonna take the current language, the first change I would make is that the first sentence is very bulky and it ends with as possible. And at the very least, I would move that up to the intent of this ordinance is to provide for as much open viewing space as possible.
I agree. I noticed that too. I'll second that motion.
And then the second change is, I don't think should be particularly when views are limited. It should be particularly because views of Eagle Harbor are limited. I mean, I don't know how else, what that could mean if when we're going to decide when they're especially limited as opposed to just routinely limited. I mean, it's a clause that I don't personally think adds a lot. It's part of our reason for having the ordinance because we're concerned about that. But I think putting it in that first sentence complicates the first sentence. Whereas if you look at the current one, I just think it's nice and clean and to the point.
Well, but I think the when defines when, adds more definition.
My recollect, that's what we're trying to get at. What views are you talking about?
In those
And,
cases.
and then we said it's really the views between the structures. And I'm fine with because rather than when. I think that makes sense. because the views are especially limited.
Well, I think the intent of the when is to focus especially on those cases where that would imply that sometimes there is an open view already, but there are some times when everything's pretty crowded. And that's kind of why we're extra concerned.
Well, but even if it's a vacant lot, you don't know any construction.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know that just the more narrow the gap between the building, the greater the sensitivity.
Yeah, the sensitivity is there no matter what, is your point.
Yeah. And it just seems that adding that thought in that first sentence complicates the sentence.
You mean the particular one?
Yeah.
As I said, we added that to be more definitive. Maybe we don't, maybe the whole ordinance is more definitive now, so we don't have to put that in the intent.
Well, you're right, Ken. I think we are trying to define what we mean by open viewing space.
Right.
And
Right.
what we mean by that is especially between the buildings. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's articulate, and that's where.
And maybe we don't need, well, if we didn't have particularly when or because views, but simply say, views are especially limited. I don't, maybe the rest of the ordinance defines things enough that we don't need that anymore.
What if we said?
Not to sell myself,
Uh-huh.
I still think that if you look at my draft language intent, with, this is
The top one?
the bottom
Oh,
one.
the bottom one, draft language, yeah.
The
Okay.
open shoreline is one of Ephraim's most distinctive features and is also characterized by buildings sited on mostly small conforming lots. Okay, that's true.
Uh-huh.
The ordinance is intended to preserve the open views of the shoreline as well as the historic appearance of Ephraim's built environment, while also allowing for some leeway, maybe you want to change the word leeway, for
Mhm.
PW property owners to modify or replace their residences.
Right.
And then, I mean, I don't know.
And then the last sentence.
yeah, and then the last sentence that was put in this time.
And that's just the new construction, a short
Right.
sentence that we have.
Right, one we just put in.
Yeah, I apologize too, that it's right there in the minutes, and for whatever reason, we didn't carry it forward as stated. Let's go back to that language, if everybody can read it on the screen. Why don't we critique that?
Well, I like the first sentence because right away you define the open shoreline and then characterized by the buildings. So I think that's important. That's
Mhm.
good.
Mhm,
That's a good definition.
mhm.
Mhm. And also, I think the second one, and I would say leeway, because we are open for a little bit of leeway to modify or replace their residences.
Some ability,
What if we eliminated that while also allowing for property owners to modify or replace their residences?
I would keep leeway in.
But you want to sort of restrict that. It's a little tight.
Define it a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Consider it.
Yes, I agree.
Mhm. And then the last big sentence, wait, consistent with the intent and provisions, encourage, okay, we want to keep that one. And then just the final sentence, we'll get rid of. To what we have, the new construction of vacant lots is prohibited.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay. Kim, I probably steered you in the wrong direction last
I
time.
just thought it wasn't clear to me, I apologize.
Oh, no. We got this one now? Okay,
All right, here's some synonyms for leeway.
okay. I was gonna ask for the legal definition of leeway.
Yeah, right.
I'm on a thesaurus, a flexibility, margin, freedom, latitude. I mean, freedom might work, but we don't.
I don't want
Yeah,
to.
that sounds open.
That sounds too American.
Latitude kind of Sounds like leeway.
Latitude.
Latitude, sure.
I reckon leeway. I mean, leeway is leeway.
Yeah.
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 All right, let's not mess with it. An attorney wrote it, so it must be okay. Retired, retired.
Retired on active duty.
You're still in the reserves.
Yeah, no, not even anything.
We're gonna keep you there. All right. We'll pick up that last one and as we've just reviewed and put that in. So let me go on to number 2. Permitted uses. I think there's no changes here, but park and open spaces, provided that any proposed structural elements are given conditional use approval. And then B, beaches, provided that any proposed structural elements are given conditional use approval. And then we get down to conditional uses. And let's go down through that again. On parcels where there is not a residence. Number 1, dockage and launching is a conditional use. Boats and related rentals, sale of marine fuel and accessories for marine use only. New structures necessary for permitted uses in the district, including bathrooms. And then 5, nonprofit organizations on village-owned property. Sales within such shall be subject to an existing lease or other agreements with the village. In the event that no such agreement speaking to sales exists, the Village of Ephraim Planning Committee, through conditional use review, shall oversee and have final approval over any such sales area. This review will include, but not be limited to, the type of merchandise sold and the total amount of display area the merchandise will envelop. So these all remain. Okay. B, on parcels where there is a residence, and now we get into some of the changes and try to consolidate these. So additions, modifications to, or replacement of existing structures. And then that's going to refer us back to 1725, which we'll get to. Let's not jump there right away, but let's go through this list first. Then number 2, residents destroyed by natural disasters or fires in this district may be reproduced using the former dimensions and locations subject to design review in 1728. In 1728, I don't know if we're going to keep it there, but that has a definition of reproduction. And I'll go through that now since we're talking about it. It comes into play in another instance too, but a house reproduction is creating an exact replica of an existing house, including replicating all unique features, materials, and architectural details of the house, as well as size and volume. The reproduction must match the original in every detail, including design and materials that must be sourced or recreated to ensure authenticity. So we're allowing for modern materials. Intricate elements such as moldings, windows, and other unique characteristics are essential to reproduction. I just simply did some Googling and looked at some architectural definitions, and that's how I came up with reproduction. But I thought we needed here, and then we're going to get to another idea of where else it could be useful. So I would ask, we could pick it apart right now and take that time. The idea was here with reproduction, and I think this goes back to the beginning. It just wasn't signed. I mean, years ago, if you lost a structure due to natural causes, you could rebuild it. But the idea always was you got a volume. And in order to promote a variety of structures, we don't want to say to people, you got 10,000 cubic feet. I think we'd rather say, no, we'd like to have that original structure reproduced.
Which I think it makes for a good argument that maybe this should be a permitted use. If you're creating an exact structure, if you're reproducing the structure, could maybe move that up to permitted use. I don't know. If it burns down and they're building the exact same house by this definition, which by the way, there should be an is in front of creating, I think, or some preposition. There should be something there, just a little Scrivener's note. But I don't know. I don't know what everybody thinks about that, but it just seems like if they're building the exact same house by this definition, I think to really encourage that, I think we should make that a permitted use. Then then we are truly encouraging it.
So permitted use, of course, with design review.
Yes.
That seems logical, yes.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I'm going back to the first page, 3B, where we started, 3B2. And I'm trying to understand the relationship between number 2 and number 3. They both essentially say, they talk about reproduction.
Here is the difference.
But 2 is by natural disaster.
Number 3, a challenge that I think we still have to address is what happens, and I don't want to name names, but we have a few houses that are large. They have a large footprint, they have a large second story, they're taller. And my thought was, if the person that owns one of those houses that are beyond our ordinance and says, I want to rip it down, I think we've agreed that, okay, if you just want to rip it down, now you're living with the new ordinance, the height and everything else.
Right.
But if they come to us and said, internally that structure is falling apart. It's just old, the foundation shot and everything else. I was thinking what we could allow them to do is reproduce it. So we'd still have the exact same house on the shore. It wouldn't meet our ordinance, but if they wanted to reproduce it because they've already kind of earned, in my view, earned it because they own it, we would have a way for them to do it. But if they said, no, I want that volume, but I want to do a whole new house, the answer would be, then you got to come back to our ordinance because there would be new construction. So that's what I was trying to peel out there, the difference for everyone. If it burns down or gets blown down, you can reproduce it.
Right.
But now for some of the houses that would meet this ordinance any longer, if they chose to reproduce it for whatever reason, we would allow them to reproduce it and essentially have a new house that looked like an old house.
And that goes back to Rick's suggestion to keep that as a permitted use.
We-
Total reproduction.
They could both be permitted uses.
Well, my point is, go ahead.
What do people think about that idea of giving some leeway to the people that right now own a house that doesn't meet our ordinance, is too tall?
Well, they're sort of grandfathered by the intent, which is to leave everything, the original intent is to leave everything the way it is.
Right.
So this is just another, if it's already that way, they're reproducing it, but it's still the way it is. Does that make sense? I'm saying it's sort of consistent with the original point of not doing anything. They're reproducing it, but it's still the same thing. So
And we're not really asking this question, but I'm just thinking of someone that says, the thing is falling apart from the inside out. And I gotta do something. So we give them a leeway. But then we're still kind of keeping what's there as far as the look and having
The size.
and the size.
Size is big.
Right, the size is big, but they own
No,
that
I
big
know.
house, just like some people own a little cabin.
Right, yeah, I agree. If there's something that can't be reproduced, then they'd have to come to us with a special exception.
Condition.
Like
That's,
like a window or door or something.
see, that's why, and maybe we don't need a conditional use, Rick, but that's why I was thinking that way, because there's gonna be material substitutes, obviously. The materials aren't even available that some of those houses are built out of, and even some of the details, like, I can't get this molding anymore, I can't get this or that.
But we would make it subject to design review.
It could
even
still
with
be.
permitted
Right,
use. So we're still looking at it and, and they're representing to us that it's, we can watch it go up. It's going to be on the same slab or, foundation.
Right.
It's going to be dimensionally, we have the pictures now, I guess. So, I don't know. It just seems like if we want to encourage people to make this as easy as possible, we say, hey, look, build the same thing that you had and it's permitted. All we're going to do is take a look at it from a design, just make
Right.
sure that it's consistent based on our own knowledge. And then we're really encouraging people to stick with their existing structure. And if it turns out that, hey, this is, we're looking at it, this is really different than what you had, well, then we move into a different part of the ordinance.
Yeah, well, we do have a definition.
Right.
Of what the reproduction is.
Yes.
I have no problem with that. I still think we've got the authority to do a design review. Well, what do people, even before we decide where to put these, do 2 and 3 make sense?
Well, my question is, there are two ways that they're saying the same thing. The difference is, could we combine and say you can reproduction of existing residents, whether initiated by natural disasters such as fire or the need to,
It becomes redundant.
Yeah.
We don't need sub two.
that's my point.
Yeah.
You're agreeing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, yeah. I'm not quite sure how to say it, whether initiated by natural disaster or by the need to, as you said,
Yeah.
redo the thing, or let's
I think
maintenance.
I would like to keep, we can combine it, but I'd like to keep that natural disaster fire since it's always been there to kind of make it clear that if that happens,
Oh, yeah.
there's voices of a reproduction.
Right.
Mhm.
But yeah, if we wanted to combine those two.
Yeah, I would say as long as the natural disaster part would be incorporated
Mhm.
into what is now 3. But I do like that language being in there because that is covered by state statute as a right also.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So 2 and 3 are moving up to permitted uses, into, correct? Combined with-
Well, there's two questions.
Right.
I think. One is to combine them, the other is to move them to permitted uses.
It sounds like we're in agreement of combining them, which makes
Potentially,
sense.
yes, and I think to incentivize, yeah.
For whatever reason, either by replacement due to natural disasters or fires, or the owner's discretion, whatever, any of those. But now, what about permitted use? What, you're the long-term guy here, Brent. What do you feel about that? Do we have as much control?
As long as then when we cycle back to what that definition of the reproduction is, as long as we're comfortable there, I like it. And it's through the various iterations of, this ordinance. That's always been a discussion point is, are we making it more easier for someone to tear down and rebuild as opposed to incentivizing a reproduction? I think this goes a long way to incentivize a reproduction.
Good. And we've talked about that, how to give people incentive to keep what they have. So this is one of those ways. Okay. We can work on the language a little bit of combining, and then we'll move the combined up to C under permitted uses. All right.
You also say in B3,
Mhm.
the whole paragraph that you have in 8.
Yeah.
Is that intentional or?
Let's go to 8. Because the idea there was, here, we define house reproduction, and then we have under the possibilities of general requirements, design criteria, dimensional standards. If none of these are changing, then we probably don't need 8. We can just put the definition right where it sits under permitted use and strike 8. And it's just repetition. We didn't know if there would be more details we wanted to hang on with this reproduction. But if the reproduction, and we can walk through that again, the wordsmith a little bit, if that's good enough, that's good enough. That could stand by itself. Again, the ordinance was really, nice thing about it was 2 pages long. So we're not looking to make it a lot longer, if possible. I mean, it even comes up, and I debated this with Brent and Kim a little bit. As long as it's in the definitions, we could just say reproduction. However, this being so unique, that probably bears the repeat in the main body of the ordinance, so that nobody misses it. So if we're in agreement on that, we can strike 8. I don't think there's a reason to have 8 as a separate. Was there more that I maybe missed on the idea of pulling 8 separately?
I mean, I think you have, I feel you need something to speak to 8.
Beyond what's now going to be defined in, go back to it now, in 3, the reproduction, because it should be almost the same definition. If it's not, it was a mistake. So there's no difference between the definition we give in the original B3 and 8. There wasn't an intention of making it different. They should be. They should be identical. But as I said, we weren't sure if we wanted to add some additional requirements or criteria.
Well, that was my, if you go to 8, and go beyond A to B, C, and D, were there things that need to be said there, or is it pretty obvious that,
We didn't know.
yeah,
We weren't really
if
sure.
there's nothing else that needs to be said, it makes even more of a nothing.
Well, and also the group hadn't really considered that. So
Yeah.
the group had to decide if they liked the
Fair enough,
concept
right.
of the reproduction
Right.
being incorporated. So extra effort was not poured into that until there was consensus.
Exactly.
The reproduction must match the original in every detail. That's pretty clear, including design and materials.
So to Ken's comment for, let's assume this is passed and someone picks this up, whether it be an owner, contractor, 5 years down the road. Again, Ken, you spoke to some of those original materials might not be available. So I mean, is this clear if someone on the outside is picking this up, that if the existing home and this is, what is acceptable as far as that authenticity? If someone has 6-inch horizontal lap siding and cedar, are we allowing them to use a 6-inch horizontal lap LP smart siding?
Well,
Is that language clear?
yeah, that's the good question, because it says the reproduction must match the original in every detail, comma, including design and materials, and then that must be sourced or recreated. Is that buried too deep that we do allow, as in the historic district right now, modern materials, recreated materials, the same design materials? Do we have to say that more forcefully, or is it's kind of buried at the very end of originality, every detail?
I guess there's two things here. I mean, one, this is subject to design review, and so I mean that we'll be talking about all of that when this comes up. But also, maybe we want to also say that the burden as to showing that this is a reproduction falls on the property owner. It's their burden to carry. And if they're gonna, tear it down and they want to follow, and they want to proceed under this section of this ordinance, that they have to come to us and say, this is the reproduction and prove that.
Right.
I mean, it's their burden. It's not for us to discover it, I think.
Or this is what's available now, as close as, we can.
They can do, right?
I mean, when they read it, even though it's tacked on the end, must be sourced or recreated. I think that option's pretty clear. And we allow it in other parts of the historic district ordinance.
But historic district really just speaks to, like say wood or wood-like
Right.
and colors and things. But I mean, again, very few people are building, a full stone shell.
Right.
Now, so a lot of these old foundations, whether it's a foot or two, or it's a chimney or, an accent wall, let's see the applications tonight.
Yeah.
Most of them are like a split stone veneer. It might be a real stone, but it's a veneer. It's not an actual, full dimension stone. So is it the look or the material? So that's where I think just falling back on design review in the historic district, I don't think necessarily goes far enough from a reproduction standpoint.
Correct.
Well, I guess what I'm most concerned about is the allowance for modern materials, Claire. Even though besides that one thought, everything is exact. But we have that one, is that enough there to say that, or recreated?
Would it help?
So, I mean, if somebody came in with, a whole different size wood and said, I can't get cedar in the 6-inch, and we might say, well, maybe you need a different material, there is reproduction. How much leeway are we gonna give them? And I guess that's gonna be on a case-by-case basis. But as Rick said, and it's up to them to show it's a reproduction.
Well, if they're reproducing faithfully, then it's permitted, and we never have to hear about it. But if they make a very small deviation in one of these things, it becomes conditional use, and they'll explain.
Then they proceed under a different section of the ordinance.
But what section would they proceed? There's no other.
Conditional use.
But the conditional use, we don't have anything, if they don't reproduce it, then they're back to this standard 23-foot tall, blah, 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 roof, they're back to this. They either reproduce it or they're back to our
Right, but isn't
design
that-
criteria.
Isn't that conditional use or special exception? I mean, it's something that we are then deciding whether or not it meets our ordinance, whether we're willing to grant the condition. And so, I mean, we're talking about proceeding under permitted use, which means that all we're doing then is looking at the images of it and the property owner representing that this is an exact replica. And then we're looking at it from design.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like if we then say, well, wait a minute, that is different. That's a different dimension, or, you know, whatever, then they're proceeding under, well, can I get a conditional use, right? Isn't that how that would work?
But there would be no conditional use for reproducing that, or building a house that big, if it wasn't an exact replica. 'Cause
Right,
they
which
would-
means that they risk having it being turned down.
So I guess we simply on design review, if this is just a design, we just reject it, looking at the definition of a reproduction, and it's not an, you know, exact replica, you know, read it all off. It's pretty clear.
I also think that we can get rid of that additional subsection A, and that simplifies the language, and if you have the same thing in there twice, they have to wonder why is it there twice, and is there some separate meaning?
Yes.
And it would also simplify the last sentence of the current B3, because you obviously don't need to say it's subject to 20 grand 8, because we've got rid of 20 grand 8. So I think that would simplify it a lot. And one last thing, since no one else is talking, instead of saying reproduction of existing residence is creating, I would say needs creating.
Sure.
Small.
Now, let me get that clear. So we're gonna leave under permitted use, but we're gonna leave that definition.
You're gonna combine 2 and 3.
Right.
And that's gonna become under permitted use.
Okay, so we won't have 8. We're gonna drop 8. Okay. Okay. Yeah, get me any, let me make the comment you just said. Reproduction of an existing resident means.
Well, we have to decide if these are sentences. I mean, Rick called attention to the fact that it's not a sentence. When he said we needed to add is earlier, and that makes sense. But the way the ordinance is written, none of these are sentences.
not
We're just
necessarily.
listing in conditions or listing uses. And one of the uses is the reproduction of existing residents.
Mhm.
And the creating is actually an adjectival phrase, right? It's modifying existing residents.
Brian, what were you saying about section 8? You were,
Gonna eliminate it.
no, but you,
No.
was there something there that you thought was important to state here?
I guess for me, it depends how we're going to view what constitutes an exact replication.
Yeah, right.
Because if you had something, you know, subject to review of the plan committee at their discretion or something like that, then you have some broad ability too. It could be viewed as fairly open, it could be viewed as insanely restrictive. Because when I look at exact replica, from the most restrictive standpoint, I don't think you could do one. I really don't, because a lot of the old cottages, I mean, as an example, if someone's gonna tear one down and, you know, rebuild, 75 years ago, everybody built their roof system with, you know, a ridgepole rafter purlin, and they have, you know, exposed rafter tails with some little detail. No one's gonna use rafters for new construction. It's gonna be trusses or something like that. Well, spacing then was 24 inches probably between rafters. that's not code anymore. So, I mean, to an exact standpoint, again, from an incentivizing standpoint, you're gonna be, it depends where you wanna go. Is it, if you take a quick snapshot, or if you're literally looking at the dimensions of every specific aspect, but exact replica might be desirable, but I don't know if it's gonna be achievable for a lot of people.
You're making good points, but that doesn't address whether we need to have it set out twice.
Right.
And I'm just.
I don't think it needs to be set up twice.
Okay.
For, I guess, without diving in too deep, I think and granted, there's more meat on the bone relative to the conditional use aspect. We're laying out a lot of new dimensions relative to that. But if I don't like being redundant. I do believe this is an important aspect, so I can see a little bit of redundancy, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that there. I guess in laying it out, I specifically would generally see in laying out what the conditional uses are. Up here is where you list them. Later in the body of the document is where you lay out the finer points of that use. This is really just in, where are we? In B3, additions, modification, replacement 2 is listing the use. You know, residence destroyed by, listing the use, listing the use. It's pretty rare where in a place where you would list the permitted and conditional use, you'd get into the finer points of what that means. Typically, you know.
That's good.
Yeah, and we're done. Sorry, Brent.
I'm done enough.
Okay.
Based on what Brent just said, that makes sense to me. And then we're still talking about permitted uses.
Mhm.
So we just add under 2, a C that says reproduction of existing residence. We could add there whether by natural disaster or, need to update or something. I don't know how we're gonna describe doing it because it needs doing. And then we, all subject to section, something like that, these cross-reference section 8, because what you said means we do the details someplace else. Then in section 8, we have this paragraph, right, that we're just talking about. Now, to the paragraph with this, would it be helped by 2 suggestions? One is to sort of downgrade, pull out some of the finer exacting language. Like in line 1, take out exact.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing.
Creating a replica of an existing house. And in that middle sentence, the reproduction must match the original. Take out in every detail.
Sure.
Then add, something like the following. Reproduction or recreation. A reproduction or recreation or substitution of materials are subject to design review. Does that say what we need to say about substituting materials that are no longer available? Maybe even add that phrase, substituting materials that are no longer available. And we say, yeah, you can do that, but we gotta, again, to your point, Rich, you gotta show us.
Subject to review, and as long as it's clear, the intent is to reproduce
Yeah.
what was there. Again, not to use the word leeway again, but, because I think there's limited leeway with this.
Right. I think by taking out exact and just saying creating a replica. And then,
What's the difference between a replica and exact?
well, exact is, you know.
Yeah,
not gonna-
One has to be.
not gonna make it exact.
I can't believe
A replica.
So what,
And
if
then-
we wanted to loosen up, we said, get rid of the word exact. And then what were the other
And
ones?
then the other one is every detail.
In every detail.
Every, in the 4th line, cross out every. It doesn't have to be in detail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's even better. It's just take out every.
Right.
In detail, including design and materials that must be sourced or recreated.
In every architectural detail, because I think with aspects like size, volume, setback, all that, that's black and white. There is no increase in volume, there is no increase in height, width, dimension in any way, shape, or form. It's just the architectural elements of it,
Correct.
the design elements.
And that's what we're pretty much hitting in the first sentence,
Mhm.
where we hit size and volume, because we wouldn't allow any leeway there. I don't think.
No.
But you're making some good points, Ben. They probably could not, I suppose you always could, but it'd be difficult to replicate the exact design standards.
We could, I mean, with our house is built just like Brent said, with those wide
Yep.
in the
Yeah.
attic. I mean, we have bare boards
Right.
up there.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be allowed that spacing
No,
anymore, so.
no.
But from well, we're really interested in exterior, and I think there's a lot they could do, even if I've got false beams coming out of the end of my house to look like it was actually a beam construction. They don't do anything inside. So I'm saying that I don't want to give people too much leeway because it's hard.
Well, and again,
We're looking
that's
just
where,
at the exterior, right? We don't care what goes on inside this place.
no, and that's where, with previous plans, as Ken stated, we've had conversations with the design team, and well, that really makes it a challenge because of the headroom, the height, the building code, the whatever. Again, all that too, if nothing can change and you're reproducing that, just from a building code standpoint, the roof system, insulation, our value, you have to have, there's a lot that could change there, so it's not as easy as, those rafters were 6 inches. Well, you can't have 6 anymore. You gotta have, so it'll be interesting. So that's where I think a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, I like getting rid of exact in every. As long as we're on this, keep reading is for the next iteration. Is there anything else?
Well, I'm wondering why to me, that sounds redundant. The reproduction must match the original in detail. Or I like Brent's suggestion in architectural detail. But the previous sentence says it's replicating all unique features, materials, and architectural details.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's just
So I'm
further
gonna argue that
explanation.
that
I
sentence
guess I-
out.
I threw this together as a conglomerate of good things I found.
Yeah, okay.
It could very well be repetitious.
Could you say exact replica in terms of size and volume and then separate that out from the unique materials and architectural details?
Okay.
Size and volume, exact replica.
Yeah, that kind of puts the handcuffs
Reproduction of existing residence,
on.
include an exact replica in size and volume, and then comma,
Oh,
and then including replicating unique design features, materials, and architectural details of the original house. So put the exact on size and volume.
Sure.
But then does that second sentence add anything? What that introduces is the opportunity to use modern materials.
correct. And I think we can say that better.
Okay.
Are we then keeping exact in the first sentence?
I think we are, but then the first sentence will just exact replica in size and volume. And then have a comma and then including replicating unique features, materials, and architectural details. Should that second sentence just concentrate on materials and leave off that first part?
so.
The reproduction should use available materials or recreated materials to ensure the authenticity.
I almost think the second half of the first sentence and the second sentence could be combined into one.
The second half, after we do size and volume.
Size and volume,
Yep.
period.
Mhm.
And then speak to the reproduction must match. However, the reproduction of materials, however we were gonna say that.
Reproduction must match the original in detail.
Must replicate.
Including the replication of all unique features, materials, and architectural details. Period.
Maybe we should, is the reproduction, should we just be saying replication, or is reproduction okay? It seems like then we start there and then we start to talk about replicating. Yeah, replicate is actually a more powerful word than reproduction, isn't it? I don't know. To replicate,
It's a good question.
Yeah.
it sounds exact. To reproduce doesn't sound necessarily exact. I don't know.
Reproduce is
I guess it depends
reproduce.
on the, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
replicate.
Okay.
I think they're synonyms.
Synonymous?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what about that? To leave that exact focus on size and volume. And then look at combining the second half of the first sentence with the second sentence. Now, what about that last sentence? Again, it was just another thought of getting the idea across that we are looking at a replication of the structure. But have we already said this?
Yeah, I think you can.
Because we talked about every detail.
And materials.
Okay.
Mhm.
What about a suggestion of saying something about where, as needed, the recreation or substitution of materials is allowed, subject to design review. And allow just saying that, or is that giving too
Well,
much
then
away?
they'll say, I need this, I need to have, I don't know.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, otherwise we sort of just leave it unstated and they're gonna have to come and say, well, we just can't do it.
We can't find this material,
Yeah.
but this is the most similar.
And I don't know, my first instinct is to say, at least tell them they can do that. But maybe that's,
well,
maybe that.
in a way it's in there. I just don't want to get that slippery slope where we found ourselves a year ago. And we thought we had the good definition, all of a sudden there's ways around it. I'd like to give them the idea that we're serious about a reproduction. And that we'd accommodate modern materials. Because today you can have almost any molding replicated on Earth. It's expensive. But window treatments and all that, it's amazing what's available out there, but it'd be easy to, well, that's not available. Well, no, not the lumber yard, you have to go someplace special. So, but there's some things that simply, materials I'm thinking of mainly, not necessarily design.
Well, because if something was built with asbestos years ago, we certainly don't want to replicate that.
Well, I don't know, how serious are we? The linoleum, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that goes without saying,
Yeah,
I think.
I guess it
But
does. Yeah.
as soon as we kind of open it up, it gets a little bit slippery, where it's our word against their word, you're not looking hard enough to find that. And those windows, that's not the treatment you once had, those windows are.
Yeah,
I would say in an effort to keep it moving, I think this is a good conversation and we can take another swing
Yep.
at this.
let us do that. Let's do it, see if our swing gets a little better. All right, let's keep it moving, because I'd like to, yeah, it's almost 1 o'clock. I'd like to read through this once. Okay, and then we still have the prohibited use, which has always been their home occupations. 5, special exception review. Okay, this hasn't changed either. Provisions of the section include except by blah, 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 blah. This is in the public interest. With the majority of the planning committee and the majority of the village board, like building bathrooms at the dock. Number 6, additional modifications to a replacement. Okay. So, starting right off, we had this discussion last time, and I made it as a choice. And I'll just go through it. General requirements. The first, most restrictive. Footprints in the PW district cannot be modified. Footprints cannot be combined, and no individual structure footprint can be increased. Okay, you got what you got. The alternative, although it doesn't look like this relative to organization, is footprints, and then we're going to have a definition of footprints that we can read. In the PW district cannot be increased with the following exception. Consideration given to principal structure footprint increases when existing accessory buildings are to be removed. The footprint of the accessory structure may be reclaimed and combined with the principal structure, provided there is no increase in the width of the footprint of the residence. And we should say it's principal structure, I guess. Yeah. And then no upper level will be allowed over the reclaimed square footage of the accessory structure. So this goes back to Andy or Rick, or maybe them, they both said, hey, we'd increase the view if we had narrower structures or fewer structures or fewer linear feet parallel with the road. And this gives people the opportunity, if they have an extra structure, even 2 structures, if they can incorporate it in the main house without widening the main house, we allow them to do it. And the other one is, everything's frozen in place of footprint, so they're not going to get any better, they're not going to get any worse.
The only issue I have, so if we're A1, is that in red it says or, are we substituting A and B for sub I there?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, so
the structure doesn't look right, but yeah, that's what it is.
All right, I just reacting to I, when we say that footprints cannot be modified, I think we're going to run into some trouble possibly with the board, because I don't think that we can make this ordinance more restrictive. And because the way we sold it to the board was that all we're doing is cleaning up the language for 1720. And so I would be really, I guess, reluctant to put in additional, to make dimensions more restrictive, because I don't think that the board will go for it. I think that the mission here was to just clean the language up, which it needed, clearly. But for example, I know that I'm jumping to another thing, like if we're going to reduce the height from 23 to 22, I don't think we can do that. I don't think that the board, I think that what we said to the board was we needed to clean up. It isn't about making it more restrictive. It's about making it more clear.
We did.
So I guess we should probably proceed with that thought.
Okay.
But did we say that?
Well, I said that at one point, yeah,
Yeah.
it's what we needed to be.
We could see these big boxy houses coming.
Yeah.
And I think we wanted to tighten that up a little bit.
Well, what I believe I was saying to the board is we had a vision of a 1.5-story house, and all of a sudden someone presented 2-story houses, much bulkier, and we want to work on the details so we get what we're looking for. This isn't what we're looking for.
Right.
But I don't think necessarily, and not to say that we can't go back to the board, but
Yeah, right.
what I was thinking is we tighten this thing up so we have a better opportunity of getting what we're originally looking for, which is the 1.5-story. building as opposed to lowering the height or as opposed to go back to make it more restrictive.
Which we were able to do when, we said to them, it's too bulky, and they came back with with the existing language.
We did.
And so we were able to accomplish that to some degree.
And we did, and I admit, it was probably under the pressure of time. I don't know that the ordinance still standing on its own would be a real great ordinance. I think it still needs these details.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Well, but I agree, Rick, that you should get rid of I. It's a good
Okay.
alternative, but it does complicate the drafting because you need something as an I to feed into sub A and B. And I think both of those are generally okay, although I have a question when the time comes. But just as an organization, I is totally different from A and B, and I think A and B are the ones we should go.
Okay. Is everybody in agreement with that? We'll get rid of I, but let's focus our time on A and B. And the idea there is to, again, give people some leeway if they open up the view into the shoreline. But the one thing that I think I missed in that, it says footprint, if we go to A now, footprints, and then there's a definition, in the PW district cannot be increased with the following exception. Consideration given to principal footprint increases when existing accessory structures are to be removed. Do we want to say increases? Well, I guess we are overall increases, but we want to make it clear that not the width. And I guess we do that, okay. So we're not saying you can buy structures and make a bigger footprint. We said, footprint's a tough word, square footage.
Yeah.
You can increase the square footage and the footprint, but not the width of the footprint. So I think we're all headed in that direction.
So Brent, they would still be confined to the setback from like the water side, but they aren't grandfathered in to exceed the.
They'd be grandfathered into whatever the closest dimension is. So if the closest point of the principal's building was 25 feet from the high water mark, that would be their new setback line from the high water mark, would be 25 feet. And I do think, just to clean up back to chicken coop conversations, instead of structures, we should be using buildings.
Right.
Building.
Because if someone had a carport or a wood shed or something like that, 4 posts and a roof, that's a structure, not a building. We're talking purely about buildings here that are enclosed by walls, not structures.
Okay.
And some of that was my language, so I'm cleaning up.
Well, when we say consideration given to principal structure, can we say house? Is that not always the principal structure on the existing lots that we're dealing with here, which have houses on it?
It is, I think it's just
It's not consistent.
we're creating new language.
Okay. So it'll be principal building.
I
We
like
want to
building
refer to-
instead of structure.
Okay.
Same thing for
Existing
accessory.
accessory structure.
Same
correct?
thing for accessory, should be building, not structure. Because again, a structure,
Right.
a building is a structure is not necessarily a building.
We've got a really big, really beautiful standalone fireplace on one of those buildings, and that's a structure. It's up in the air, but we wouldn't let that be combined with a house that's not a building.
The first sentence, footprints cannot be increased. Under what circumstances right now could they be increased? I mean, I'm questioning why we're saying that.
They can't, under the current one, we said, you can't
Well, no,
increase it.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm just trying to, it strikes me as, I don't know if it's redundant, just one, of course they can't be increased.
Well, where do we say that?
Where would we,
That's an A.
Doesn't say increase it, modified.
Cannot be increased. Yeah, they can be modified.
But as of now, we haven't said that.
We haven't stated
This is,
that.
Well,
this is
okay.
the first place where we're stating that.
All right, all right, all right. Okay, I'm sorry. I withdraw.
Don't let it happen.
Yeah, I get it.
Keep up with the crowd.
I'm 2 steps behind you.
So Rick, to your previous comment about the scope of what the board approved.
Mhm.
This, while from a width standpoint, it may be more restrictive
Mhm.
than what's there now, because currently we grandfather those setbacks and people can modify, which now we're talking about in two, or B, footprints can be modified so long as there's an increase in width. That potentially is more restrictive than what we have now. But A is more opportunity for the property owner. Because even though in a previous iteration of PW, you could combine footprints, the current version you cannot. So A is more relaxed,
Mhm.
but B is a little more restrictive. So I guess
Right.
that's just something to consider.
Yeah, under the current ordinance,
Yep.
you could recreate the dimensions of the same square footage.
Okay, this is my other concern, and I hope you don't think I'm an idiot for using this, but just saying an increase in the width, to me, didn't say enough. Because length and width are different concepts. If I always thought length was the longer side and width was the shorter side, the rectangle. So if the screen we're looking at, the width is from top to bottom and the length is from side to side, right?
Mhm.
If you could imagine a building where they would say, I'm just extending the length, I'm not changing the width, and that's exactly contrary to what we want. So I thought original versions had something like expanding the length as viewed from the road or some definition.
I don't know what happened. We did have that in there, and I think it works if we say as measured parallel to Water Street.
It's
So
in design criteria too.
Oh, maybe that's where we dropped it down, but maybe we need to reiterate that right at the very beginning where we make that statement. Yeah, there it is, in B small 2. The width of any individual structure is measured parallel to State Highway 42 cannot be increased.
Right.
So what if we move that statement up there when we say,
Well, do you want to use that wording? Footprints in the PW district can be modified so long as the width of any individual structure as measured parallel to State Highway 42 is not increased.
see, the way we're trying to do this is we start general and get more specific.
Right.
So this is where we actually define what we're saying in
I think it could stay.
A1, where we talk about width. If we think it's really important, we can move that definition. We could just repeat that definition as measured parallel to State Route 42.
Or add that after, provided there is no increase in the width of the footprint is parallel to State Highway 42.
We could pull it up there.
You need to say the length of the footprint. Parallel.
Well, but you're looking at,
Yeah, well, yeah, depends on the house, right? Whether it's a length or a width.
And you're right, it's probably longer that way.
Right.
Not as most people would have built their house
but you're wider,
looking out at the shoreline.
but you're making it wider, so.
Right, but that would be the length, not the width. But we're talking about the width of a lot.
True.
Let's think about that. Let's see, let's go back to where. Okay, we first hit that in what is now A1, and combine, provided there is no increase in the width of the footprint of the residence. What if we just said right there in the width, parentheses, measured parallel to State Highway 42? So we're kind of defining what the width is, whether the longer, the shorter measurement.
Right, because then you have the definition parallel to 42. Clarifying that.
So are you saying width or length?
I'm gonna, no increase in the width. No increase in the dimensions.
Find a neutral word, yeah.
You could call it a dimension.
Whatever you want to call it, width or length, yeah.
I don't know if that's
Well,
specific.
certainly including the parallel, I mean, the parentheses, as measured parallel to state highway 42, that would help a lot. Whatever we say, whether we call it length, width.
Yeah.
Appearance.
Because to me, when you, and I don't know why I think this way, but if I look at a structure, I'm not gonna, I would automatically say the width of that structure. As I'm looking, I wouldn't say the length of the structure. But then again, I don't know by the definition if it's really the width, the formal definition. But I think if we define it right away, what the dimension is measured parallel. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about? We'll do some cleanup in the organization here, but we'll get A and B combined there to be the first topic under general requirements. And the second topic is all projects are subject to applicable floodplain ordinances as the village and the state. Let's, if we can.
Is B gonna solve your concern about rectangular houses? I mean, what it allows you to do is take a long house.
Mhm.
Not saying flat,
Yeah, right,
squeeze it
right,
and go that way.
right.
Maybe that's, I'm just trying to imagine a scenario where someone's trying to do this and now we're actually gonna redesign the house.
Mhm.
Is it gonna, I mean, maybe it works. I'm just asking the question. This was really generated by your concern that now everything's turning out to be sort of a box with a story and a half and a couple of dormers.
I do have that concern, but realistically, when you own a piece of waterfront anywhere, you're not gonna put the skinny side
Correct.
of the building that's looking out over the water. So I don't worry about that. Plus, if you get a real thin house, it's not gonna fit in the dimensions because they can't become more non-conforming.
Correct.
So in a way, their area is rather small. They can work. But now we're just giving the latitude. If you want more square footage, you can reclaim it, and that helps our views, which is our ultimate goal of the water.
What you're not saying is that you can take a total square footage and do whatever you want with it, right?
You still keep, as long as you don't become more non-conforming. You used to, well, no, we can't, because what we're saying is no one can make it wider.
Yeah.
We are saying that is a little more restrictive.
That's true, right.
But that was the intent of the original.
That was the intent of the ordinance, yeah. Yep. That's a major intent. Okay, to keep on going, because well, let's see how far we get. Then P, design criteria. The style of the new residence in the PW district shall meet the design criteria in 1726 historic district and generally, as a maximum, have the design characteristics of a single story or 1.5 story house. Okay, I put this back in, I'll admit, because we had talked about dropping it. The reason I hate to drop it is I think many of us thought, gosh, I wish we would have written it down in the first place and then people wouldn't come to us. So there's a definition in 1709, and that doesn't have to be in 1709. Is it 1709, where is it? Oh, no, that's, see, what is that reference, 17.09?
That's the definition section.
Definition section, okay. If you flip through definitions, and, maybe we'll leave some of the definitions for later, there's still a definition of story and a half house. And if we could set it aside, do we think it benefits us to still have this general definition under design as we're looking at a 1.5 story house? Does that cramp their architectural abilities too much? And maybe we keep that general, but it's clear that we're not looking for a 2-story house. We don't say it's prohibited. I guess we could say that. A 2-story house is
Then
prohibited.
you gotta define two-story
Right.
house.
I know, and that's not easy. Well, yeah, it's probably easier than a 1.5 story, but, so I stuck it back in there as kind of a reference point without telling them how to design it.
I like it in there, because then that gives a parameters. You can do a 1.5 story. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, and it still hits a single story.
Right.
We're looking for the
Right.
characteristics of a single or 1.5.
Right, and it's not the full bulky 2-story, but 1.5.
Oh, I need to correct the typo. Right now it says a half story.
Let's see. Well, that would be a very short one. A single story
That'd be very-
or 1 and 1,
1.5 story.
or a 1.5 story house.
I like the half.
Where's that one? In the definition?
It's right there. Yeah, definition.
Oh, we're definitely, I'm sorry, I was looking at my paper, not, a 1.5 story house. Yeah, that's,
It's a dog house, right?
okay. We'll clean that up. Okay. Then number 2, design criteria.
Can I ask one question on
Sure.
one? The word new, and new residence. Yeah, it may be a new residence, but it's not new in the sense of, well, okay. I'm
In
taking-
which one?
Right here on the design criteria, so the style of a new
Yeah,
residence.
it's not new in the sense of something that was never there before
Right.
because we're tearing something down. It's a replacement of some kind or a rebuilding. or something.
Maybe,
Well, I don't know.
but then we say a residence, we're gonna have a lot of residents there that are 2-story houses, that are 1-story houses.
Kind of gets
Style
all
of a rebuilt residence,
Rebuilt, we could do.
is that helpful?
Well, this is all falling under additions, modifications to
right.
or replacement of existing.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't need to, new residence, the style of new construction, yeah, EW maybe. New work.
New construction.
We always have, that's the title, additions, modifications, or replacements.
Again, we want to make it clear so someone picking it up knows what we're talking about. Because for a lot of people, new construction means there's nothing existing and I'm building something that's new construction. But for me, a lot of times with non-conforming buildings, people want to add a second floor where I'm not exceeding the dimensions of the current. Yeah, but it's new construction. All new construction is subject to, meaning anything that wasn't there that you're adding to. So,
What, rebuild? No.
but it could just be, a modification.
I know. Let's think about that one. How to best describe that.
Well, new is the problem. I take new because it's not a new residence.
The style of a residence. But it is coming under additions, modifications, or replacements, so that is new construction,
New work.
new work. Yeah, I hate to say just a residence, because that applies all the residents in the
Right.
protected waterfront. The style of any,
Construction.
maybe construction is better than residence. Let's think on that one.
About
New construction of a residence.
projects under this heading or something like that,
The style of project, yeah.
under this subsection, something like that.
A project shall meet.
The design criteria of,
Projects under this section.
again, we're well within the PW district, so I don't really know we need to restate that. It's already established, we're a project in the
Yeah.
PW district.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. And then small two. Visual impact from the street is to be minimized in all projects occurring in the PW district. And here's where we wanted to define what that means. The width of any individual structure as measured parallel to State Highway 42 cannot be increased. When the existing landscape is to be modified or replaced, a landscape plan is required. The landscape plan should not reduce the water view between the buildings. Is that enough? Because that was the discussion we had on the Price House.
Unless
I think that's pretty clear.
at what point do we define what it means to reduce the water view? I mean, we had to, under duress, declare that what we mean is 42 inches or whatever. we said,
2 inches high.
And parallel to.
And barrels, yeah.
I mean, but they do have ones that are, let's say, vertical.
I mean, I prefer that there be nothing parallel to the road.
Yeah,
But we couldn't say that before, and can we say it now? Should not reduce the water view, period, you know. But I'm asking him, we're gonna say, well, you allowed parallel bushes that are 42 inches high.
Well, that became 42 inches because that would be the fence height. Although it would be a through fence, it would be the fence
But-
height.
In my understanding of fences producing a view.
No, I mean, that's how it came.
I know that, but, yeah, and we sort of had to on the spot come up with
Now we're kind of forcing a split rail look.
Right, rather than a solid fence.
I mean, the whole landscaping plan is almost another topic that I really didn't want to slow this process down on. Because that's gonna require more thought.
This is just specific to reproduction modification.
Right,
project.
we're not, if you can re-landscape right now, that's not included in here. But if you are gonna work on the building, then, and you're gonna take down landscaping, then we want to see it. So, this probably needs more work. But maybe let's hold that thought a little bit. But that was the idea there. We tried to better define what does that visual impact mean, so we're all clear. And then this, another thing we tried to put in, see how it sounds. Number 3, from the view of any side of the residence, the number and pitch of roof lines should be minimized. The overall guiding principle of design is simplicity. Now, the simple design is stated in the historic district ordinance. And that comes on, when we work with culture, I know several people on our plan committee were not satisfied with the simplicity. And maybe the whole slopes will help satisfy that. But I thought to have a statement in here, so we had a little more to go on when we see all these different roof lines, because you're gonna have a lot of them between 6 and 12, even if you get rid of the flatter roofs, that we can say, wait a second. From the west view, that's not very simple. You guys got to do something to simplify it up. I was trying to give us a little more basis for making that.
But simplicity is stated in the historic district, and that's,
Well, the word that's really is simple. Simple, not simplicity, simple. Simple lines, and that's when it gets into the rectal in here. This would be I don't know if this appears anywhere else in the ordinance, the word simplicity. So maybe that's not the best word.
should be overall guiding principle.
Guiding would be better than
Yeah,
riding.
riding. But I think simplicity works. That's a definition that people understand.
The opposite of busy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Do you mean to say that the pitch of the roof line should be minimized? What does that mean?
Where are you now?
I'm just separating out the two things we're talking about. The number of roof lines should be minimized, but you're also saying the pitch of the roof lines should be minimized. And I'm not sure what that means, because we don't
Wait a
want.
minute, I didn't, the number and pitch, oh, okay, I should have said that.
Well,
Because I was talking, these are all different roof lines when they have one like this. They can still have a 612, an 812, a 1012, 1212.
You want to minimize,
All within
you want to minimize the number of
the
different
numbers, the
The
number.
number of pitches.
The number and pitches, you're right, pitches.
I'm still struggling.
No, I think it should be plural. Because they can be well within our 612 to 1212 and have a lot of different pitches going on, so.
Do we mean the number of pitches? The number of roof lines and the number.
Well, you could have parallel roof lines.
Yeah.
Way too many of them,
Exactly.
almost a little bit
But
like
they're-
Dobermans
but they're
that are coming
the
out
same
the
pitch.
front,
Yeah.
that wasn't very simple.
Just say pitches.
Pitches, the number and pitches. And then we can look at them all.
I think that works. Yeah, you're right.
So
You're right. Thank you.
Is that clear then, again, someone's picking this up for the first time? Because again, to avoid the boxiness, we'd rather probably see someone step a roof system down as opposed to having one big box.
Right.
Is that contrary to that by minimizing the amount of roof lines and pitches? We didn't want to add another roof line, so we just have one 40-foot
But,
gable.
but we're saying should. We don't say must. And if someone comes in and says, I read this, but you know what? If I didn't do it this way, you would have this one big face, and that's why I did. We're always gonna have to work with trade-offs. But what we didn't like on that last building is there's just too much going on. It wasn't simple. It was complicated.
Yeah, especially the west face.
Right. And that's why I said, from
We
the
say
view of any side.
The number and varying pitches of the roof line should be minimized.
Sure,
Could do that.
yeah.
I gotta bring with more colored pencils when I come to this meeting.
And again, I know this is all subject to historic district design review too. You want to complement that, hopefully not contradict that.
Right.
But again, kind of like the busyness of roof lines, we also talk about the bulk. Do we want to add anything in this anywhere that speaks to reducing bulk?
We gotta read through it again and see where bulk comes
I
in.
don't know if we had anything. in
Has that been
this.
dropped?
I don't think we had it necessarily in PW.
No, you're right. It came out of,
That's in 26.
right, in 26, we have the bulk.
We would say the overall guiding principle of design is simplicity and the reduction of bulk
Avoidance of
or
bulk.
avoidance of bulk.
I like that word.
All right.
Sure. Sounds good too. Simplicity and avoidance of bulk.
I've been trying to avoid bulk.
It's not easy.
It's harder,
It's
doesn't it?
not easy to avoid.
Gotta go somewhere. All right. Let's take another crack at that one. Number 4, and we're just about out of time. I know people have other things to do. Any existing house okay, this is kind of new. Any existing house attachment, and they have to see the definition, may be replaced on a new residence, assuming the size is no more than the existing house attachment, and the attachment is a 1-for-1 replacement. For example, a porch being replaced by a porch, but not a screen porch or window porch. Where this comes from is when we went and looked at the houses in the protected waterfront. We have everything from patios. Okay. And I just gleaning what everybody has to say. It doesn't seem like anybody's real concerned beyond impervious areas about patios, what you want to do. But then we have a deck, and the deck, if you look at the definitions, is typically at the elevation of the floor. And then we have a porch, which is simply adding, by definition, a roof over a deck. And then you can screen it and you can window it. And we have overrides. Some are embedded in the house, which would be, and this all gets back to what's the footprint? And we won't dive into it, but read again those new definitions in some detail and come with ideas on that. But my thought was, and this came out in Cultras, they had a windowed porch, because we pretty much determined based on the foundation, everything, it probably wasn't part of the conditioned space. But when they first came back to us, they had this huge window porch. And it's like, well, where does it say they can't do that? So we're working very hard on this footprint, but then a house has what's I define as attachments to the house. And I would at least like to consider that we want to control the size of the attachments. Otherwise, we could have a really big screened porch. I replaced the screened porch. So what I was getting at here is you can keep what you have. And there's different levels of it, anywhere from a deck, to all the different types of porches. And some of them, I think, I can't remember which one, but that we saw, it would be argued it was probably conditioned space. It'd become part of the house. So the idea here, and we don't have to run through this, but food for thought, read the definitions. Does this make sense? It's something that's kind of silent right now, and I think we saw the price too. We saw in both places. Well, you didn't say anything about, everything else. And what do we feel that we should control? And BD's brought up the bulk from the look of the house. So, and then just a quick get through this. Outdoor lighting shall be minimized, generally limited to entrance points on all elevations.
Like that.
And we'll quit there and not go on to the dimensional standards. I'm gonna look real quickly at dimension standards to see if some of those are new. But the other thing I'd like you to think about is your original comments. What we needed to do, and make sure that we were hitting on them all. If there's anything that had been missed, that we have to clean up with the ordinance. Otherwise, Brent and Kim and I can take we'll redraft up through design criteria. And then maybe to get us the same point, we'll start with dimensional standards next time. And get through that and take it from the top.
This will all be in the minutes then, that Kim will print for next time, so that we'll have this all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good.
So we'll remember what we said.
Yes, exactly.
What is KN? Ken Nelson?
I hope not. Where's it say KN?
On page, the dimensional standards.
It took me 10 minutes to figure out.
Did you figure it out? You found the answer? I'm impressed.
Where was it?
Mr. KN, you.
Oh, new, that is me.
I asked Mary, what's KN? I don't know what you're talking
Kill.
about. And I go, oh.
Oh, take a read on that. My only thought there, if someone comes in with a 21-foot house, that's what they want. Yep, you make it. Do we let them go up to 25 for all the chimneys and everything else they want to put up? Or do we limit the whole thing to 2 feet over?
I said 2 feet.
Yeah. Except are we getting rid of the creativity of somebody doing really a statement chimney out there? It's a real beauty. I don't know. So that's an or there.
I think it would look weird.
Okay.
It looked like a submarine periscope sticking up.
Exactly.
But I think contrary to previous conversation, because this came up with the 23-25,
Mhm.
because, from a building code standpoint, which there is some legitimacy to that. So it's like, okay, well, we'll max it out at 25, but if someone feels that strongly that this is important to them, then they can design their house around the chimney if need be. So again, if the code is there, what did we achieve in doing that? We're not allowing them in any way, shape, or form to do that, so.
So we're being more restrictive.
If we, yeah,
We keep that.
if you went to the yellow, it'd be more restrictive. the 23 is still the same, but we're saying if somebody chooses a smaller. So in a way, we're making that overall 25, which will stay in the previous one, more restrictive. Think about it. Think about what makes sense.
So I
Yeah.
got the flagpole,
I'm not a very tall one, but yeah.
5
It's up, get us the roof to raise flag.
like the likeness.
Okay, gentle people, thank you for all your time.
Can I ask one real?
No, it's okay. No, go ahead.
Well, I'm going back to your new technical term, house attachment.
A house attachment, yes.
And is this a new term, or is, I guess I'm asking Brent?
Brand new.
Yeah, so we are,
Do we have the definition?
There's the definition in there.
whatever we want.
There's a new definition. And maybe,
I like it.
maybe I'm wrong. Architecturally, I think that's what they call it. And the definition is, I got off kind of an architectural site. But is it something we don't worry about? But it could easily evolve.
No, I like that definition, attachment.
My,
It's an attachment to your house.
yeah, my point is, yeah, I agree with what
It's
you're
not
trying to do.
living
I'm just
space,
curious what you
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
You know
stick with
what?
attachment?
Run over your.
Yeah, I just wrote.
Your nephew.
Just wrote, ask Tim in the margin.
That's your nephew. Yeah, absolutely. I was on an architectural site and that's what they had, but I didn't do a lot of research on it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else to finish up? Everybody done? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
In a second,
Second.
all those in favor, please say aye.
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 We are.